Welcome back. Our retro reviews are continuing with Pride Month. Today, I thought it would be interesting to visit the oldest queer movie in history, different from others. It's a silent film from Germany made in 1919, and it's considered the first movie to see a gay couple depicted on screen. Now, this film has a very interesting history. In 1919, Germany did not have censorship laws, so they were allowed to get away with a lot in this movie. A really cool thing about it is very pro-gay. The movie makes it very clear that love between two men is an absolutely wonderful and acceptable thing. In fact, there's an entire part of this movie that's just a little educational insert about why being gay is okay. They even take time to explain the difference between being trans and being gay and why sexuality and gender is not necessarily the same thing. You know, they use different types of language because this was well over 100 years ago. Now, the sad thing about this movie is that in 1920, Germany started to have censorship laws. So for a while, this movie could only be shown for educational purposes. Then things got worse when the Nazis showed up, because those bastards destroyed pretty much every copy of this film. Thankfully, some of the movie remains. It was kind of reconstructed later. So if you do watch the movie, it's streaming on YouTube, you'll see there are a lot of inserts. Silent films in general do have a lot of explainers, but there's even more of that in the version you can watch. But the fact that any of it still exists is pretty incredible. It's hard to review this from like a critical film standpoint because it's so shredded, and film was a lot different back in 1919, but it's so interesting and kind of beautiful. So it's about a violinist who gets a pupil, and the two of them fall in love, but there's a blackmailer and all this business. It's a bummer. A woman is in love with the violinist, but once she learns he's gay, she becomes like his ally. There's this whole sequence in the movie, a flashback of his school days. This is where you get the almost kiss. Him and his, presumably boyfriend are sitting on a bed together, and there's ever the slightest lean, just so subtle. And then it cuts to the teacher walking in, literally going like this. Because, it's silent film acting. But that's enough. It's like, oh my god, it's 1919 and those two men just kissed in a movie. It's really crazy. The film starred Conrad Veidt, who you might know from one of the most famous silent films, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. He was not Dr. Caligari, but his subject, who he hypnotizes in that film. A secret truth about me is that I don't really like watching silent films. And it's not because it's like, oh, they're old, there's no quality to them. It's because ever since I was a kid, Charlie Chaplin kind of freaked me out. And it has to do, I think, with like the movement of the speed of film that comes with a silent film. And sometimes watching it makes my stomach hurt, which I know is really bizarre. But I've been trying to get over that fear. I watched Haxon last year, which was a documentary about witches made in, I think, maybe 1920, 22, and it was incredible. So I'm really trying to build my way up, and I'm so glad I watched Different from Others. It didn't hurt my stomach, but again, you don't see a lot of the actual film. At one point, the apprentice character, his family, sends him to a psychologist, a sexologist, to figure out why he won't marry a woman. I love what the doctor says. You mustn't think poorly of your son because he is homosexual. He is not at all to blame for his orientation. It is neither a vice nor a crime, indeed not even an illness, but instead a variation, one of the borderline cases that occur frequently in nature. Your son suffers not from his condition, but rather from the false judgment of it. This is the legal and social condemnation of his feelings, along with the widespread misconceptions about their expression. Okay, 1919, that's incredible. If you want spoilers for the ending, I will tell you, it doesn't end happily. Like so many films in queer history, our lead character does kill himself because he's outed by a blackmailer, he spends a week in jail, and then he is shunned. It's quite sad. But that being said, for 1919, there is kind of a hopeful power to it, where his lover comes to the funeral and the sexologist is there, and he says to him, don't kill yourself too. Use this to spread the word that this isn't wrong. In 1919, you can't expect two men to be actually kissing and riding off in the sunset together. But the fact that this movie was made to educate people is incredible. I'm not going to rate this movie because it's incomplete, but my heart wants to give it 5 stars because of the fact that it even exists. If you're interested in film history or queer history, you should absolutely go on YouTube and check this out. Happy Pride! fuck the Nazis, subscribe!